in life, you don't always get what you want. I think that phone call actually made our relationship stronger because the level of respect I had for you, that you were like, no, bro, I gave you a chance. You turned me down, which that did confirm your ass put my name in that book.
Man, you know how many times I've wanted to be on this show because I worked for Nick Saban and Kirby Smart. There was no chance that I could come on.
Welcome back to another episode of The Burn. I am Ben Newman, and you know how we do this every single week. We're going to bring you a story of an athlete, an entertainer, a celebrity, an entrepreneur, somebody who is recognized in life that why and purpose is not enough. There's this underlying burn that ignites your why and purpose and causes you to show up on the days you don't feel like it, and especially after you win. And when I tell you, I always say we have special guests, but like when I tell you that today is a very special guest, I'm talking history, I'm talking about deep relationship, a man who has impacted me. We both move so damn fast, I haven't been able to give him enough credit. And I know he doesn't like all the credit going to him, but I'm probably going to give him some today because he deserves it. But this is a man that has impacted my life. This is a man that impacted many lives with what people saw and what they think they knew him to be. But what I cannot wait to uncover in this week's episode of The Burn is what happens when you accept responsibility in your life and you step into the true path that God has for you. And I am here to tell you today that the impact this man is going to have in the next chapters of his journey will be the greatest, most impactful chapters. So Scott Cochran is an 8-time national champion.
Come on.
Scott Cochran is a man who became like the first famous strength and conditioning coach. He made it okay for strength and conditioning coaches to be famous. Many people remember that 60-minute episode from years ago when he had hair, I had hair at that time, and he was like, man, they're already bringing me trucks with 20s. It's just my job to put it on 24s and put some spinners on it, baby.
Yes, sir.
So I remember everything about Scott Cochran before I had the blessing of meeting Scott Cochran. So you talk about the highest level of winning. You're talking about Coach Saban had a huge impact. They did a lot of great things together, but 8 is actually more than 7. So this is a man who has done a lot of winning in college football. But this is a man who was a strength coach in the NBA. This is a man who was a lifer in terms of a commitment to do what it takes to be your best. This is also a man who's a lifer in embracing challenge and adversity and knowing, even though he built a lot of muscle on his own body and on the bodies of some great athletes that you see throughout the NFL every single Sunday, winning Super Bowls every year, some of the greatest strength has been built through the adversity he's helped players through. And some of you have been watching his story. You've seen Marty Smith, which made me so happy. Marty Smith, man, when we were at Bama, the number of times Marty Smith would come through, he loved being at Bama. I mean, who the hell doesn't love being at Bama? But Marty Smith loved being at Bama. And Marty Smith has been able to help really take Coach Cochran with this new passion he has and just put it out the way that it should be. That's why I said, Coach, you've got to finally come on The Burn, because back in the day, we weren't able to do this. So now that we can, you guys are going to learn about his organization, AARA, eliminatethewhisper.com. We're going to help you understand what that is and the power of ending the whisper. Because you think 8-time national champion is a big deal and the lives he's touched is a big deal. Wait till you hear what he's doing now. My brother, my dear friend, Scott Cochran, welcome to The Burn.
Yeah, grateful to be here. I mean, man, you know how many times I've wanted to be on this show because I worked for Nick Saban and Kirby Smart. There was no chance that I could come on. So, man, I'm grateful to be here. It's an honor to be on.
Well, I want to start with a little story to kick things off, because I think people need to
Now
hear
I'm
this.
nervous.
One of the amazing things about Coach Cochran is he cuts it to you straight. And I try to be a challenger, one of those guys who I'm going to show you a lot of love, but I'm going to let you know what's real, because I think there aren't enough people that are doing that in life. So I had to go through an interview process in 2017 to join the Crimson Tide and do the blessing of the work I was able to do. Not somebody who just showed up and gave a talk in training camp, but an opportunity because of Coach Cochran and Ginger Gilmore spending time getting into the details and approving before I even got to Saban. This is a guy that may care enough that he belongs in our building. So I had the opportunity to go and interview on site live in 2017. It's the first time we meet. And then I end up getting this phone call. And I get this phone call at it was wild. So I didn't have Cochran's number in my phone yet. Ginger had said, "Hey, Coach Cochran's going to be calling you." So imagine you're walking up the stairs right into this office. And all of a sudden my phone rings. It's an Alabama number. I'm expecting him to call. And there wasn't "Hello, Ben, good to talk to you this afternoon." I answer the phone and I say, "Hello." And he goes, "Scott Cochran, Alabama football, baby." And I'm saying, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, I know I met him in Tuscaloosa, but this is just a different kind of juice. And that phone call, it's what opened up the door to so many things that we're going to talk about. But the phone call changed my life, because you were so straight with me. And what you did that day, I don't even know if you did it. And I hope that he does this for you today, everybody listening, that you really get into the details and you pay attention and you welcome people who challenge you. He said, "Ben, man, I'm excited to get you on campus. There ain't no doubt about it. And I got a schedule for you from Sunday until Tuesday. I hope we make it until Tuesday, because let me help you understand how we do things at Alabama. We're going to get you here on Sunday. You're going to come into my weight room. You're going to watch some lifts. And then I'm going to break you up into rooms, and you're going to get guys, about 20, 25 guys at a time. I'm going to have you hit these guys with your best stuff 4 or 5 times. We're going to see what you got. If you don't make it through Sunday, I may throw you out of the building, and you might not make it to Monday. Are you sure you want to do this?" And I was just man, from how the phone call started to just going right down into it. And I know for a lot of people, you wouldn't even want to step into a fire like that. And obviously you can see from how we're laughing and engaging with each other that it was 5 amazing, well, you were at Georgia the last year, but 4 amazing years that we had the opportunity to work together. And there's so many things that, because of how important privacy is and the deep relationships we have with players, there's more that we could never tell you than stuff that we actually can share, because of how deep we go with these guys that we love. But Scott, why was it always so important for you to cut it to people straight, to have the tough conversations, to not be full of bullshit, to not candy coat stuff, to not, "Hey, welcome to Alabama, man. Here's how this is going to go"? Why was that so important for you?
Because I'm going to give that specific situation. The reason why it had to be done that way was because you are about to impact the team, right? And you could go in there and not be authentic, not be your honest, your true self, and give some bad information. And my goal was, if I know you're good at this, how can I get you to relate to 18 to 24-year-olds, right? Can you dive in and kind of take your message back a little bit and just rip open a wound, so that they can see, wait, this guy's here for the right reasons. And once you do that, then the buy-in they get to you makes it an easy sell for me to tell Coach Saban, "Hey, this guy killed it. We need him back. He needs to come in 5 times a year, 10 times a year, whatever we can get." But I think in the college world, right, you have 3 to 5 years to develop a player. Mentally is really all I'm talking about. Physically, I was a strength coach, so that's just part of it. But you make them do bench press all day and they're going to grow. I mean, you can't fail, But so in my world, you kind of have to hit it per season, right? Like you have to capture the players right away. You don't have a lot of time for the gray. You don't have a lot of time for kind of sort of. Like when you came in, I was like, look, I'm going to cut this workout. Like we're literally going to lift. We're supposed to lift for an hour and 20. I'm going to cut it to 45 because you may go over. And then I'm going to get them in the room. They're going to be yours. But I'm taking valuable time from the weight room for you to have this conversation with them. So I need you to be you and try to help them get to the next level. And that next level, which people should know, but I don't know if they do, that next level is sometimes just to get through the day. It's not necessarily to get to the NFL. It's to get through, okay, I'm having this problem. How can I fix it? Or do I need to just say no? You know, teaching college players to say no and no as a complete sentence is very difficult for them. Very difficult. So I think there's no time for the BS. You know, there just isn't. There's just not time to sugarcoat it, to make it something it's not. And the kids these days, man, and I'm saying kids, but this generation, they get everything really fast. They're really good multitaskers. They don't. This is the coolest part, that if I had a camera on me growing up, if you had a camera on you growing up, we wouldn't leave the house because we'd be so embarrassed, right? Like, oh, dude, they caught me breakdancing, because I used to breakdance back in the day, by the way, in the French Quarter. Turn up, let's go. But like, if somebody were to film that and play it now, it'd freak me out. These kids get filmed all the time. They get embarrassed, and they're able to move on to the next thing. So they're able to multitask better than we ever have, but they're also able to put shame to the side every once in a while, a lot faster than us. So I think it's a really cool dynamic, that generation trying to figure that out. And raising my kids, I see it all the time.
One thing I do have to mention here, quick audible, because you say getting filmed in your house. This almost didn't happen because, once again, from that first conversation, Cochran calls all the rules, and that's my guy, so I listen to his rules. But we're doing this over video. He likes doing this in person, and number one, that's what he likes. But so the fact that he's in his house, this is just round one. We will have round two. And also be on the lookout. I will make sure that Coach Cochran, because this is the one thing we really wanted to do, was to be able to share the stage together. So be on the lookout for our event schedule for 2025, because we will get the schedules aligned and make sure that we bring in Coach Cochran to have an impact with those of you that choose to attend. And I'm telling you, if you got the two of us on a stage, that's a fire that you do not want to miss. I'm just telling you.
Yes, sir.
All right. So another thing that I had always believed, and I've never shared this with you, I always believed it, but you had elevated it to such a high level at Alabama. I just came in, I'm like, okay, this really is this way. Consistency of messaging. So I remember you and I would have conversations. Man, it drives me crazy. Like one week, these programs, they'll talk about cheetahs in the jungle, and the next week it's Muhammad Ali. If you were in this weight room at Bama, there were mantras that were on the wall. There were ways that jumping jacks were done. There were ways that push-ups were done. There's things that were said. Consistency of messaging. And a lot of times I think people are choosing to find something new every week to make it exciting, instead of what I believe, and you hammered home for me, and I've just ingrained it in me, and it's what I teach and coach: long obedience in the same direction with aggressive patience. So why was consistency of messaging and those types of habits and disciplines, not just in the weight room, but with their mind, why was that so important to you? Because there's a lot of strength coaches. You and I have been in a lot of rooms. They don't do those things.
Right. I think, yeah, I mean, for sure, the messaging is crucial, but also we're teaching more than just the game of football, right? We are teaching, like, Coach Saban's model is if you walk through the doors through Alabama, you're going to be, when you walk out, you're going to have a degree. You're going to be a better person. You're going to be able to be a great member of society, raise a family, be a good husband. Like all these things were huge importance. And in order to do that, you got to show up every day and be you, be consistent with who you are. And knowing that, you've got to find that internal motivation, right? Of course, I'm a strength coach. I mean, yeah, I'm going to get you juiced. I'm going to get you cranked. I'm going to turn the jock rock up. I'm going to do all that. But the messaging was so valuable so that they understood, like, there's only one way to skin this thing. This is the standard of Alabama. This is the standard at Georgia, right? Like, this is the standard, and we are going to keep directing the message, right, towards that standard. And, you know, every coach has their disciplines, you know, and I just worked for two that had shared the same exact disciplines. So it was easy to continue to go down that line because every day you can find the struggle, and every day you've got to push through it, regardless of the circumstances, regardless of the issues you got going on outside. It's so important that you push through that moment so that you can achieve what you're looking for. So staying on target, and, you know, it's a business too, right? These kids don't want the merry-go-round. The real ones want to know, what do I need to do today to become the next Julio Jones? What do I need to do today to become the next Minkah Fitzpatrick? Those are the things that they're looking for. And so I think it's like playtime's in the locker room. When you step into the weight room, you kind of got to have that over the top, turn that hat back, and let's get to work, right? It's also the same way when you walk into the film room, right? They got to have that same mentality. Like, this is okay. I got to put my thinking cap on, really, you know?
But there, you know, one of the things, you know, because once again, I've been in enough weight rooms, I've been to enough programs where they want to do what Alabama does. They want to try these things. And these are videos you can find online. So I'm not sharing anything private, but it was a blessing for me to be able to see and learn from you and to be able to do the things that we did at the program. But everybody listening, if you can imagine this, there was a line, right? So there's like a big door that goes into the weight room. And like, guys didn't just walk into the weight room and then we'll get started. I mean, everything had a purpose and a reason. It was like, we're going to jam in together so tight that it's like you are one heartbeat before you get in. And if there is one toe over that line, stepping on the floor of my weight room, we're going to do this all over. I mean, I watched every detail of this, and you'd be screaming and you'd be yelling. And then all of a sudden, Coach Cochran would put that whistle in his mouth. And then he'd get up close and he'd put his head down to that line. He'd be looking at that line. There's a toe over that line. You're going back to the locker room, but everybody's in there. The juice is going, and then bang, that whistle goes, and bang, they just go. There's a level of intentionality and detail to understanding how people are wired. And if you're not operating that way in your life, you guys hear me talk all the time about the difference between focus and intentional focus. Coach Cochran, Coach Saban, they drove intentional focus in everything they did, because focus does not win championships. But one of the areas where you drove intentional focus at just an unbelievable level was how much, forget football, forget touchdowns, forget wins, forget rings, forget championships. You drove such a deep level of intentional focus and how much you cared about the lives of every single player. Why was that so important to you?
I felt like it was a responsibility. You know, when you meet the families that come through and they're like, here is my 17 or 18-year-old son, and they are live somewhere else, obviously, sometimes really far away, sometimes close, but here is my son, and I am going to entrust in you that he is going to come out better or achieve his goals or have all the things that y'all been recruiting him to do. Who is going to be in charge of that? And working for Coach Saban, that position coach that was recruiting him wasn't going to be there long. You know, it was just the way it was, right? He's hard on coaches. Coaches can't handle it. But if they can, then if they're a position coach, they're going to take a coordinator position somewhere. If they're a coordinator, they're going to take a head coach position somewhere. So that kid is depending on someone to be their uncle, their dad in place. And took a lot of pride in the fact that I cared about these kids. And I just wanted them to have success, because it doesn't take long for a cycle to go through and you get the phone calls of, hey, something bad happened to this guy. And after I got one of those, it just reiterated how important my time with them was. And so if I saw a guy with his head down, or just who's normally an extrovert and he's all over the place, and all of a sudden this day he looks like he just woke up and he's just not all in, like, I can pull him from the workout, put him in my office and be like, hey, what's really going on? Like, and sometimes it was like, I got this, I got that, and I need to just work out, right? I need to just go sweat this stuff out. Let's talk after the workout, right? And then there was times after a workout, like I'd be like, hey, come step in the office, because, man, they get pulled in so many different directions. And now with the NIL situation, they're really getting pulled, but they're getting pulled by family, which is worse. So they're getting pulled here, there, and to have somebody with sound reason to say, hey, I've seen this before. This is what I found really works. I've felt the same way you felt. This is what I found really works. You know, the feel, felt, found method. You know, I feel where you're coming from. I've felt that way before. This is what I did that didn't work. I found that if I did this, it really worked. And a lot of times I had to talk to parents on the phone. Like, my wife is a saint, because it was long hours and all that, but I chose the career, you know. I'd be on the phone with parents trying to coach them up. You know, like, hey, leave your son alone. He's doing great. I know this is his sophomore year and he's supposed to do A, B, and C. But you know what? He's right where he's supposed to be. All he needs is a mom and dad, not another agent, another coach infiltrating him, thinking he's not good enough. You know how many times I had to tell a player, bro, you're really good at this game. And they'd be like, what? Like, I can give you a specific example, and I don't think Ryan Kelly cares. Ryan Kelly is a center. He plays for the Colts. He's going into his senior year. We went to the White House because we won national championship the year before. And he grabs me and he's like, hey, you think you could connect me with the Secret Service? I think that's something I really want to do. And I started laughing. I'm like, R. Kelly, listen to me, brother. You're going to play in the NFL. And he's like, shut up. I don't even start. Like, it's not happening for me. Like, I've been here for 3 years. This is just like, I want to go to the Secret Service. Like, I need to have that plan. I've got my degree. I'm working on my master's. And I said, do me a favor. I will get you any job you want, but dive into this season and dive into this year and do everything you can to be the best player you can be. He was drafted 21st pick in the draft, signed a second contract 2 years ago, probably going to sign a third contract. I mean, the guy's got so, like, unbelievable, but, like, that's the stuff. Like, sometimes they get down on, they beat themselves up. Like, I'm not good enough. I'm not this, when, man, you're a stud, you know?
So I'm going to make everybody wait for more of those Bama specific conversations. We're going to transition to the first transition in our relationship when you went to Georgia, and we'll also save some of those Bama stories for live from the stage. We got to make people come out for that. But you transition to Georgia, and here's some things. I'm going to leave this at this, and I'm just going to say what I'm going to say. You went to Georgia and you stayed the man that you were. And I know that was Kirby's expectation, and that's why Kirby wanted to get you there. And Kirby came from Alabama. Kirby didn't have the breakthrough until you got there. Now, I was never very good in math, but I'm just saying 6 + 2 is 8. And when you left Bama, you had 6, and then you stacked 2 more at Georgia, which is 8. I'm just saying that's a nice big number of national championships. But one of the things, and this is another story that has not been told, but I love this story because it tells you exactly who this man is. There's integrity and there's a way you do things. There's an expectation you're either rolling with me or you're not rolling with me. So this is kind of a fun story. But everything that Coach Cochran just shared, he took to Georgia. The relationships, the mindset. And oftentimes for you young coaches or veteran coaches that are wondering, why haven't you broke through yet? I hope you're paying attention to how Coach Cochran showed up on the relationship side, talking to parents at night, which means I got to have a tough conversation in my home to let the family know, hey, I got to go take this conversation because I got to take care of this young man. He's going through something, right? So it's making that sacrifice. But you stayed true to every value that makes you who you are. So Coach Cochran calls me after his first year at Georgia. He says, Ben, man, I don't know what's going on here, man, but we got this book. And the book is for all the coaches. They put the names of people they want to speak in the book. And he's like, bro, your name's in the book. And I'm sitting here going, man, your ass put my name in that book. But I get it. Okay, you're setting the table well. And you're like, so bro, like you're in the book. Like, are you still rolling with Bama? What's going on? And I said, Coach Cochran, I'm still rolling with Bama. And you're like, all right, I understand. Because I had shared with Coach Cochran that I would never, right? And this is where I think where he and I really bonded. I would never go and speak to another SEC team while I was at Bama because I had a job to do. If I'm rolling with the tide, I'm rolling with the tide. And I used to call Coach Cochran or Coach Saban and say, hey, I'm going to Iowa. Is that okay? They want me to do this, or I'm going to this school. And sometimes it would be like, hey, man, we played them in the playoffs 2 years ago. Like, you can go take a tour of the facility. That actually happened at Michigan State. And you were like, yeah, that's your alma mater. Go tour the facility. But like, you can't go speak there. And I was like, okay, I get it. Later on, I ended up, doing that with Coach Tucker, but I never did. Well, you said that I was in the book. I turn it down. Fast forward a year later, right? Kansas State is playing Alabama in the Sugar Bowl. A lot of people don't know this. I sent a 3-page letter to Coach Saban, letting him know. Now, that year, I had pulled back. I wasn't having as many in-person visits. I had a preseason visit, was helping some guys one-on-one, but I was with Coach Kleiman on the sideline. He gave me my first shot in college football. We're literally playing Bama in the Sugar Bowl. I wrote a letter to Coach Saban just letting him know I appreciated everything that Coach Cochran had done, Coach Gilmore had done, and I was going to be in purple on the other sideline because I had to draw that line in the sand. And at that time, I was doing more for Kansas State than I was for Alabama. But the point is, we played in that game, and then the season ends. Georgia ends up winning a national championship, and I then call Coach Cochran because now I'm not working at Alabama. This is the great part of the story. I say, Coach Cochran, here's what happened at Alabama. I let Coach Saban know. I know he's not going to let me back in the building. I talked to him after the game. It was polite, shaking the hand, but like you could tell, like, okay, I'm not going back to speak at Alabama. And I called and I said, so I can come to Georgia now. And you, man, right, you said, hey, bro, I gave you your shot a year ago and you told me no. But here's why I tell you this. In life, you don't always get what you want. I think that phone call actually made our relationship stronger because the level of respect I had for you, that you were like, no, bro, I gave you a chance. You turned me down, which that did confirm your ass put my name in that book. But it proved who you were. And I want everybody to know it doesn't always have to be about it working out for you. Too many people, you're worried about, what am I getting? So I call Coach Cochran. That could have been like, man, forget Coach Cochran. I'll never talk to him again. What's he talking about? Instead, I was like, no, my level of respect, like I wanted to lean in more with this man. When we talk about the second transition, you're going to realize why. But our relationship was so strong. I didn't have to come to Georgia and speak to the football team. That made it stronger. So why is it so important for you? And I think I learned from you, like, I couldn't show up to that football game, Kansas State and Alabama, and be on both sidelines and doing this. And I called the players that I was working with. I called Toa Toa. I called Jalen Milroe. I called my guys. I said, guys, and because of how you really taught me to handle those situations, and you didn't know I was going to give you this credit, every single one of those players was like, bro, I love you so much. Like, I'm going to dab you up before the game. I'm going to try to kill you for 60 minutes. And I promise you, I'm going to hug you after. And that's what happened in the game. But those are the values that you taught. You helped me handle that situation and make the right situation, which was Coach Kleiman gave me my first ever shot in college football. I love that man to death. He's given me every opportunity I've ever had. That was the decision I had to make because of my allegiance to him. But those are things where you're teaching so many lessons. I don't even know if you pick up on how much you're teaching. And then when I called you and you shut me down, it made me lean in more with you. Why is it so important, even with me, that in all your relationships, you teach lessons? There's no negotiation on your standards, is the way I would pose it. Why is that so important? Because you easily could have been like, oh, bro, perfect, I'll bring you into camp. Why do you operate that there's no negotiation on the standards?
Because I want people to know, right? Like it's just so much easier to operate in truth, right? When you know, okay, I can keep knocking on this door, I can keep knocking on this door, and I can keep pushing it back, and I can keep pushing it back. All that does is stress me out. When I have a situation where if I didn't handle it the right way, if I said to a player, hey, you're doing good, even though they're messing up in class, even though they're messing up over here.
Have you thought about writing a book, but just don't have the time? We would love to help you make that dream come true this year. Introducing B&C Publishing. We offer an in-house 3-step process to help you bring your book to life. The whole process only takes 60 to 90 days. Compared to 18 months for traditional publishing methods, we work fast. To see if we are a good fit to work together on your project, email our team at info@bennewman.net. That's info@bennewman.net. Now, back to the show.
Right? Instead of just saying, I wouldn't play you because of A, B, and C. I don't know what the position coach and the head coach are deciding, but me personally, A, B, and C is why you would never play for me today. Now, you can fix A, B, and C, and I think it just takes away the bitch assness is what it does. It takes it away. It makes a clear conversation. Like if you take it personally, then we got to go into a whole conversation about it. But if you can take the emotion out of it, it's so much easier. But then a player comes in, another person comes in, they'll tell me exactly what they need instead of, hey, like kind of like me getting on the show. I was like, bro, I'm ready to get on. Like I've got some time and sobriety. I'm feeling good. Like I'm comfortable in my skin today, things like that, to be able to, instead of, I'm thinking about doing some podcasts and stuff. Like I could do it a million different ways, or I could just come direct. Hey, I want to come on. I'm ready. And it kind of just takes out everybody's emotions. And I think it's so important now because people we all do it. We make emotional decisions, right? If I'm going to go buy a car, like, I see a color I like or whatever, it's an emotional decision. You go buy a house based off an emotional decision, you gonna be in trouble, big dog. So I think if you can be direct and if you can be clear, like these are my intentions, this is what I'm trying to do. I feel like it gets the emotional out, and then there's no room for like, well, you said this, right? And then I love the situations where it's like, you know what? It'd be really good if we had you. Let me see if I can manipulate something so that we can get this done. Right. Because that was what I was the king of. I could manipulate situations so that it would benefit a player all the time, or benefit my own career or salary, So not having to do that in these situations is just a clear message on both ways.
And do you feel that's why you were able to, and you're like me, right? I'm not putting the pads on, but you do know there's a value that you brought to that building. There's a key contribution that you were able to make by caring, loving on those players, and holding those standards. What was that like for you to be able to leave Alabama and then be able to see for you that the values that you stood on and the beliefs that you had, that they didn't waver, you didn't buckle, you didn't try to change, you stayed true to the things that made you you? How unique was that for you to then become part of 2 national championships at Georgia with those same beliefs, those same standards, the things that make Scott Cochran who he is?
See, and I've never thought of it that way. This is when I got to Georgia, I told Kirby, I said, hey, you have what you need in the building. You have good coaches, you have great players. What you don't have is what I need to start really infiltrating on. And we started a thing called skull sessions, which basically we called them at Bama too. Your first meeting with the player were skull sessions. So I think figuring out, and like year one, I told him, I'm like, we're not going to win this year. And he's like, what? He goes, I brought you over here. I'm like, listen, what I need to get done with this team, we can't get done. And it was COVID too. So like maybe that had something to do with it, but we just needed time, right? Like we didn't start the mental conditioning program at Bama till 2008. 2007, we didn't have it. And in 2008, we implemented it, right? At LSU, we implemented it in 2001. It took a year to kind of feel it out. I implemented it as soon as I got there, but I knew it wasn't going to be. I could tell in the first game that I coached there that the guys weren't ready. I noticed small things that most people wouldn't recognize, but I noticed mentality, conversation, what they did. Looking at the scoreboard was one. What are we up by? What are we down by? And so I knew going into the offseason after the 2020 season that it was like, this is the year where this stuff has to click. So it is when I really dove into the leadership. I really we took the leadership off campus and did the same thing I did at Bama. We did those things. We kind of got them gelled together so that right hand knew what the left hand was doing and they could keep each other accountable. But I never saw it as my own personal standard. I saw it as, what's interesting is that I saw it as special teams is pretty easy. So this is a piece I really love. Now let me dive even more into that piece. And I say it's easy. It's football. For all the people out there listening to this, and you listen to coaches that sleep in their office, that do all this stuff, it ain't that difficult. The game hasn't changed that much. It's just football. If you dive into your players, you'll win championships. Dive in. Most important thing you'll ever do is that impact that you will have on a young man's life. And if it's a positive impact, or if you're just one of those moody coaches, if you're a coach that depending on my mood is how I'm going to coach today, you'll never get there. And I mean, you're collecting a check, and it doesn't matter if it's a big check or a small one. Your mirror is going to be ugly for a while until you say, you know what? I could spend 3 more hours watching this film, or I could pick up the phone. Instead of calling a recruit, I call my own teammate, my own player, and say, hey, how's it going, man? And work on your ears. You got 2 ears, 1 mouth. It's a beautiful thing. God bless us with 2 ears, 1 mouth. I wonder why he did that. Because sometimes you just need to shut the hell up and listen. Because these kids, they need help.
All the while, all the way that you poured in, all the help that you gave, you surrendering to a life of giving and giving and giving. This is our final transition of Episode 1 with Scott Cochran. There were periods of time you forgot to take care of you. And this is where I say the next chapters are going to be the most significant chapters of your life. And I've got your back now more than I ever did when we had the chance to help guys get in between those white lines and battle for 60 minutes. Many of you know that my father, after my mother passed away, they were divorced when I was 6 months old, never knew my parents together. Dad moves back in after mom dies when I'm 7. My dad's a drug addict, alcoholic, manic depressive, bipolar, everything under the sun. I used to come home from school and my dad would be high on drugs or drunk on the couch every single night. And that was my existence by 8. And so I've always sought to find ways where I could help with addiction recovery. I've done stuff here in St. Louis and people have called me. Some of the greatest acts of coaching I've ever done, I believe will never be known. The people I've helped with, the people who I've helped get sober, and conversations where I lean into helping people through tough things just to be able to live their lives again the right way. And I'd love for you to talk about ending the whisper and to really help us better understand a little bit of your story, what you're open to sharing and what this whisper is. And then I think everybody's going to realize why I'm mentioning these next chapters are going to be the most significant chapters.
Yeah. So I started getting these migraines that were just, they were very difficult to deal with. I used to dunk my head into the ice tub between workout groups just to try to take the pain away. The docs tried in 2010, they tried blood thinners. Those didn't work. I think they tried a beta blocker. That didn't work. And then I want to say 2011, 2012, they started giving me Oxycontin. And that sucker worked. And they told me, they said, hey, this is highly addictive. But like Ben just said, let's get real. I'm on 60 Minutes. I got ESPN. I'm on TV. I'm on the Jumbotron at football games, right? I'm not going to get addicted. Get out of here, man. Come on. Addicted? Come on. And so that led to me 2015 started taking chopping them up and taking them through my nose. 2019 I was up to I think 10-15 pills a day, high dosage. The milligrams were close to 400 milligrams a day of oxycodone, and I was like, you know what, I got to put it down. Maybe if I leave Alabama, I leave Tuscaloosa, baby. I leave, they say geographic location. I'll leave it all behind, right? I'll go to Georgia. They don't have drugs in Athens. And so I get to Athens and it's worse. Now I'm up to 25 pills a day. And then I overdose. My wife finds me dead. And she had no clue that I was taking anything. And got me to the hospital and brought me back to life. And I went to rehab. It's lasted about 2 months. I had about 2 months of sobriety time. So COVID lifts, we go back to practice, and nobody knows. I got this little secret with my wife. I went to rehab out of town, so nobody knew anything in Athens. And I started picking up more, and it turned into 50 pills a day. By June of 2021, I was sick of it. I needed help. I told my wife I'm going to go get help. I went to rehab for 100 days. Came back 2021 season, we win, I'm sober. 2022, we win, I'm sober. 2023 season. Look, my goals, and pretty much everyone knows this that knows me, my goals since 2009 have been to win 10 national championships, to make X amount of dollars, and to develop 50 first rounders. And I'm sitting here at 44 years old in 2023. We're going to make a run. Maybe I'm going to get to my 10 national championships before I hit 50. My ego gets out of control. Like, I'm the man. Like, you can't tell me anything, right? And so I slipped up. I had a setback. And January, I told my wife, and she told me, actually, she saw the struggle. I had 2.5 years of sobriety and I picked up, but she saw me struggling. She said, you don't have to do this anymore. This can be our last football game. And so I went to an outpatient. I resigned from Georgia, and we started the American Addiction Recovery Association. And I am so excited about it. And eliminatethewhisper.com is how you get us, is how you get a hold of us, is how you join and help this fight. You can break it down by numbers, right? 107,000 Americans overdosed and died in 2023. 107,000. In 2022, it was 109,000 Americans died. I don't know what the numbers are before then, but just in those 2 years, that's more than any war we've ever fought. I mean, that's crazy. And the ages are 18 to 45. They say next year it's going to be 16 to 55. It's going to be the number one cause of death. So these numbers, what this equals out to is about 200 Americans die a day of an opiate overdose. I'm not talking about alcohol. I'm just talking about opiates. Opiate overdose. So that is equivalent to a football team. And Ben knows what I'm talking about. A college football team. Imagine a Marshall situation. Every single day, 200 people pass away from this addiction. And I'm living proof that you don't have to be the junkie that's under the bridge, right? We just talked about my success. I got 8 national championships. I made more money than I knew what to do with. I was supposed to be a high school coach when I first started this.
I mean, you were on Regions Bank commercials. You're on the Jumbotron. I mean, you really became a celebrity figure, not only in the state of Alabama, in the country.
And I had this battle that I was going through, and the headache started it, but I'm sure something else would have gotten me to it too. So I don't want to blame my pain, right? Because there's a lot of people out there struggling that are looking for the trauma that happened. They're looking for, how did this happen? Hey, look, this is a disease. It is so much proof in the science world that this is a disease that it doesn't matter what anyone says. And so what AARA is doing, right, what our plan is, we are taking Susan G. Komen, her exact blueprint, like everything she did for breast cancer. Because if you look at all the stuff she did, when this first happened, when cancer first became a thing, if you just took the word cancer out and put the word addiction in 2024, if you just exchange those words, if you go back to the 70s where people would get cancer, an employer would fire them. It's not like it is now. They would get fired. In 2024, if you have a drug or alcohol problem, your employer fires you. It's 2024. This is a medical disease, but people are still losing their job over this and going to get help is still whispered about. And that's why we came up with Eliminate the Whisper. Because when I first started doing this, I would make phone calls like, hey, I'm starting this nonprofit. We're going to help people battle addiction. We're going to get some laws and some policies changed. We're actually going to find a cure for addiction. Like, who's got the kahunas to say that? Like, we're going to go find a cure through this work, a cure for addiction. And look, we're going to get in battles that I'm ready for. Like, bring it on. People that sell things that are addictive, we're going to figure it out. But we're going to get a cure for addiction. But whenever I would call somebody, they would always say, it'd be in the middle of the conversation, oh, yeah, I'll support your group. Hey, by the way, my nephew, I have a cousin. And my entire purpose and our purpose with AARA is to eliminate that whisper, because the stigma is real, and we've got to get rid of it.
I want to encourage everybody. I was one of those phone calls that Coach Cochran made. Certainly with my life experience and my support of these causes in the past, it's an easy decision for me. There's no whisper for me. I'll come get loud with you regarding the issue because of how it's impacted my life and the wounds I have as a result of it. I don't know if the verbal abuse, I would have gotten it from my dad that still had wounded me had he gone through these things. I don't know. I'll never know. But if I could help a young man with that, or help a young man have his mom or his dad or his brother longer in his life or sister longer in his life, I'll do whatever I can. And, I made connections. There was financial support, which the financial support will continue from our family to the Cochran family, because Coach Cochran's family to me. But I just want to share with everybody, don't wait for Coach Cochran to call you or somebody from AARA to call you. If you need to have that conversation, please go to eliminatethewhisper.com. Figure out how you can get active, help that family member, help push some of these laws forward, whether it's financial, whether it's understanding what they're trying to do to be catalyst in order to help people become sober and to live healthy lives, with Coach Cochran being the example that he's lived it. That's the strength of it. So you listen to this whole interview, not expecting this, and you realize, man, this is a man who gives, he serves. Oh, I thought he just wanted to win championships. Of course, he enjoyed winning championships, but it was about men and relationships. And then now you realize he's an example to serve this way. That's why I say these next chapters are going to be so impactful. So I encourage everybody, as we finish this interview, if you need to pick up the phone for that friend or loved one, pick up the phone. And if you need to pick up the phone or send that email for you, the most important thing you can do. And here's an example of a man who so strong for his family. I think it was last week. And I remember Bo's ass running around the weight room at Bama. And now he's at his first homecoming, and Savannah's at homecoming. And kids are growing up. Like, your life ain't getting any slower. And you owe it to yourself or your relatives who care to not allow a whisper or pure frickin' silence to maybe lead to somebody not living anymore. So I just encourage you, whether it's your dollars, it's very easy on the website to contribute. Please contribute. Join our family in supporting the Cochran family and AARA. But most importantly, do not have silence or a whisper if there's somebody close to you that needs help. So I just wanted to say that because I care so much about you and everything that you're doing, and you just know I love you, and I know, because I saw my dad get sober, but then I saw my dad struggle with addictions to other things, and this is a sickness. This is an illness. You can't have a whisper. You need to be there for that person to help them for their whole life. So I don't know if you could share anything about that, maybe a little bit more of the specifics that, like you mentioned, whether it's an organization, a company, like call Coach Cochran and bring him in to speak to your organization. Like, if you have great people, don't necessarily fire somebody. Maybe you've got a slew of people you think there might be an issue. Call Coach Cochran, have him come speak to your company next year. Have him come be a voice to allow somebody to come to the back of the room when he's done, or to send an email, so that you can actually keep a unbelievable employee on your team. Coach Cochran had to leave the game of football because he knew from his family he had to do that. But there's people who are losing their jobs that are quality people. That doesn't have to happen. So can you speak to a little bit of that so maybe people understand? Because I think a lot of times it's a corporate initiative you have to fire, but they don't realize, like, if you care the way you cared about players, like, lean in and go help these people. Don't fire these people. Right. It's addiction. It's a disease.
Yes. And we are giving out the HR program, right? And that's what you'll see going to the website. Like if you're an organization, you're the CEO of a company and you're like, man, I'm having a person that is struggling with this. Our HR says to do this. We can hand you exactly what Delta does. Delta does a phenomenal job. And really any company that has come from the Air Force has doing a phenomenal job. So what they do is you can self-report. So if you're struggling with alcohol or any substance abuse, you can go to HR and tell HR, hey, I am struggling. So that you don't have the big mistakes, that you don't have to deal with the overdose, so that you don't have to have a function where they get so drunk that they black out and do something that ruins the organization. They can go to HR and they say, hey, I'm having trouble. They get an assessment, right? Then it's up to every organization. Do I pay for them to go in to get treatment, or do we just do a leave of absence? Nobody knows why. You do a leave of absence. They go for 30 days, 90 days, whatever your company can afford. When he or she comes back, you just have drug tests, or you have breathalyzers once a week. You make them go to meetings. There's so many great things that they do, and their success rate's incredible because you're losing money. You lose money firing or asking them to resign, right? You have to bring in someone else. So that entire process of bringing someone else in, then you have to train them. So you're losing money because of their addiction. You will have a better employee. You'll have a better circumstance for that employee, and no one will ever know. So it doesn't have to be, oh, he's this, he's that. Oh, he can't do this. Like these Delta pilots, they get drug tested 3 times a week that go to this HR situation. And their success rate is incredible. I think it's close to the 85% that those pilots are back in the cockpit, right? It's amazing what they're doing. Our goal with AARA, just so you know what your donation would be going to, this is crucial, because I think when you ask for money, people are like, well, what is it going to? Like, oh, how much percentage is this and that? This is what we're trying to do. We're brand new. We popped it off basically July 1st. I think it was June 26th. We launched. First 3 things we want to get done. Number 1, there's this thing called Narcan boxes. All right. So basically it's a box that has Narcan in it. Everywhere there's an AED, we want to have a box of Narcan. We got it done in the state capitol in Georgia. They have 7 Narcan boxes in there. God forbid a high school kid's walking around, goes into the bathroom, hits the vape has fentanyl in it, he crashes out. You got 4 minutes to get to that box. You're saving somebody's life. So we want to put Narcan across the country. We also want to go to all 50 capitals. So we're going to get a bus, and we are going to go to all 50 states. And we're going to speak to the legislature. We're going to speak to the House. We're going to speak to senators. And when we went to DC, they were all in. They were like, why don't we have Narcan everywhere? So we're going to push those 2. And then my absolute favorite is September is Recovery Month. Our color is purple. We are going to have college football teams wear something purple in the 3rd week of September across the country. Nike's already told me that they'd give me 10 to 15 teams. I'm working on Under Armour. They haven't promised me anything yet. I'm working on Adidas. But we're going to get everybody. I'm actually going to a high school today in Columbus, Georgia, that are going to wear a purple bracelet for recovery to eliminate this stigma. Because I believe that if athletes put out there that, hey, it's okay, recovery is real, then people are going to start stepping up like, hey, my friend is really struggling. And put your arm around that friend and say, I love you. You got this. Let's go together. Or, hey, I'm struggling. I need help. This right here is the strongest thing any person could ever do, is say these words. I need help. It's 3 words. They're the hardest words to say together. It is the hardest thing to do. This shows so much strength, raising your hand and saying, I need help. And God, if we could just get people to do that, whew, we could save some lives. We could save some lives. I mean, 107,000 last year. That's crazy. That's just Americans. Like, come on. 200 people a day are dying from overdoses. What if we cut that in half? My God. It's a whole generation that's disappearing. We don't have to go to a war because we're having one in our own state, in our own country. We're killing ourselves. And I want to put an end to it. EliminateTheWhisper.com.
EliminateTheWhisper.com. I want to encourage everybody. It doesn't take money. I don't know if you've set this goal or set it this way, but I'm just going to put it out there. You know, at one point in time, Coach Cochran had a goal for 10 national championships. Let's help him win 50 championships, 50 states. One state is a championship. If you are listening and you think you have a connection to a politician, a connection to a catalyst, it does not take your dollars. If you have dollars and we're coming to the end of the year and you're looking for a great write-off, it's a full write-off. It's a national organization. So you can count on me to contribute more to kick this off for our entire burn community. But just know that you can be a catalyst and it doesn't take your dollars, but let's help Coach Cochran win these 50 championships one state at a time. Because if you do that, just think about this, those Narcan boxes, imagine how many times people don't know what to do. It happens in a school, it happens in a building, it happens, and all of a sudden it becomes just as normal as a fire hydrant. It becomes just as normal as as the fire equipment. We can save lives. So Coach Cochran, this is why, and I think now people know, they're probably like, next chapter is the best chapters, man. That's like one of the most winningest coaches in the history of college football. What the hell has Ben talking about? These next chapters will be more significant, and I'm in your corner. And I'm grateful for how you continue to lead others, how you continue to lead me. And for everybody listening, I hope you realize with a guy like Coach Cochran, you keep it real. And even in those situations where he and I have this great relationship over all these years, you keep it real in all situations. Oh, I'm ready to come speak. No, bro, gave you that shot. You just keep it real. And that's what I love about you, is that I always know if I need help, if there's something I want to run by you, I ain't going to get no unicorn sugar-coated candy answer. I'm going to get the real answer. And there's 3 words that it almost will bring tears in my eyes saying it. There's 3 words that you'll get from Coach Cochran when you have a relationship with this man. And those 3 words are, I got you. And, it's one thing to have the courage to say, I need help, but it's totally different when you got somebody who, when you say, I need help, he's going to say, I got you. And as much as I know that you're that for me, I hope you know how much I'm that for you. And I love you, brother. I'm proud of what you're doing, and I want to help continue to push this forward for you. And I'm so grateful we could finally make episode 1.
Yes, sir. You got that right.
The next is in person, and then we're also make sure to keep in tune with our event schedule. We'll get Coach Cochran out with us live next year, but in true fashion, because nobody can take a stage away from Coach Cochran, I'm going to let you wrap this up for us. I'm going to encourage everybody to subscribe. I'm going to encourage everybody like you never have before. Don't you tell me that you don't know 1, 2, or 3 people that need to hear this episode. I want you to share this episode like you have never shared an episode of The Burn ever in your life. 5 people, 10 people, post it on your social media. I've never asked for this. Go back to 6 years of The Burn. I've never said, go post it. I want you to post it. I want you to share it. My father was a drug addict, alcoholic, passed out on the couch when I got home. Think about how that impacted me. Now you see why I have so much fire to help this man. There are no excuses, no self-talk, no whispers. Let's get loud together. Share this. Make sure that people hear this. Make sure that you post about this. This episode needs to be heard. Coach Cochran, I'm going to turn it over to you to finish this off for us.
Yeah. Again, eliminatethewhisper.com. Come check us out, man. We're so excited. I'm free. Let me explain something to you, what recovery looks like. I am free from anything. I don't have to worry about finding something, going to do something. I don't have to worry about my insecure. All of this stuff I'm free from. I'm sitting to you real and raw as I've ever been. And I'm so excited to do it. And what we're doing with AARA is incredible, but we need help. We're brand new. We're brand new. Like, come on, help me. And it's got all the information on there. If you personally are struggling, and I want you to listen to me, this is very important. If you are personally struggling and you don't know what to do, of course, go to eliminatethewhisper.com. But all of my social media is at Coach Yeah. All of them are. I think IG, Coach Cochran, right? But all the other ones, I'm on everything all of a sudden. I got everything loaded up. But at Coach Yeah, DM me and tell me you're struggling. Because I can't tell you since the article came out, since the SEC Nation has come out, that I have talked to over 50 people that are just like, I'm about to lose my family. I can't put it down. I've got some time sober, but I'm really thinking about taking another drink. Man, just hit me. Like, this keeps me sober too. Like, helping others helps me. So you're not a burden, I promise. And I will get back to you within 48 hours. It'd probably be 24, because the only time I'm not going to be on it is when I'm doing this. But right when we hang up, I am going to my social media and I'm going to see 5 new people that are struggling or have a family member and don't know what to do. I am not that important. I will pick up the phone and I will call your family member. I do not care. I want to save lives at the smallest level and then at the largest level through AARA. So thank y'all for y'all's time.
Coach Cochran, God bless you. We're going to put all the links in the show notes, make it as easy as possible for us to support, help, and to make a difference and to save lives together. Coach Cochran, and big love forever. And I got you. I appreciate you so much.
Love you, brother. Thank you.